What if I told you that the most successful people in the world have one thing in common? They're not trying to be liked. A Harvard Business Review analysis of Fortune 500 CEOs found that 68% scored below average in likability tests, yet they're running the world's most powerful companies. So while you're lying awake at night, worried about what your coworker thinks of you, the people at the top of their fields are actively alienating huge portions of the population. Hey friend, I'm Christy, a board certified nurse practitioner, health coach, and trauma survivor. Welcome to Trauma Free, where I help you change your mind and change your life, just like I did. And today, I'm going to show you why being disliked might be the key to everything you want in life, along with the psychology of why your need to be liked is actually a sophisticated form of manipulation by others and yourself. We'll also explore how embracing disapproval can transform your life, backed by research in behavioral psychology and neuroscience. So, by the end of this video, you'll understand why every moment you spend worrying about the opinions of others is a moment that you're not living your life. Here's a pretty shocking statistic: 89% of people admit to changing their behavior just to avoid being disliked, and the average person modifies their authentic responses 12 times a day. Can you believe that? 12 times? Science shows that this kind of people pleasing behavior is making us both miserable and unsuccessful. A study from Stanford's Graduate School of Business followed 1,000 professionals over 10 years and found that those who consistently prioritized being liked over being effective earned 23% less, reported 34% lower job satisfaction, and were 40% more likely to experience anxiety disorders. So we're sacrificing our happiness and success for the very thing we think will bring us happiness and success, and sadly, it doesn't. Let's start with an uncomfortable truth about kindness. Most of what we call being nice is actually manipulation in disguise, and the person you're deceiving most is yourself. Here's how this psychological trickery works. When you suppress your opinion in a meeting and you tell yourself you're being respectful, or when you say yes to plans you hate, you convince yourself you're being a good person. But neuroscience reveals something darker. Your brain is actually calculating the social benefits of deception because every emotion we experience serves a hidden goal. That anxiety you feel before speaking up, it's not protecting you from embarrassment. It's saving you from the responsibility of having an opinion. And that people pleasing behavior, it's not you being selfless. It's a strategy to avoid the discomfort of potential rejection while maintaining the illusion of having the moral upper hand. So when you're being nice, you're actually engaging in strategic self presentation, where you're carefully creating your personality to extract specific responses from others. You're basically saying, I'll give you the version of me that you want to see, and in exchange, you'll give me approval. It's a protection game where you're both the enforcer and the victim. For example, a 2022 study found that people who prioritize authenticity over likability showed significantly lower stress biomarkers, specifically 31% lower cortisol levels, 28% reduced inflammatory markers, and they were 24% more likely to achieve their stated goals. Your nervous system literally relaxes when you stop performing for others because maintaining a false persona requires constant cognitive load. So your brain gets slowed down because it has to work overtime to monitor your performance, predict others' reactions, and adjust your behavior accordingly. But there's an even darker cost. When you consistently choose niceness over authenticity, you begin to lose touch with your real preferences and your opinions. So you become a stranger to yourself because you're living someone else's life while wondering why you feel so empty inside. Here's where it gets really interesting. The National Institutes of Health conducted a fascinating study using advanced neuroimaging technology that tracked the metabolic cost of emotional labor, and they found that every fake smile costs you approximately 7 minutes of cognitive productivity. Every time you force yourself to be fake, you're literally draining your cognitive battery because your brain uses glucose as fuel, and maintaining a false persona burns through that fuel at an alarming rate, which causes your brain to lag. So everything slows down. The average person expends 23% of their daily mental energy on what they call impression management, which is constantly monitoring and adjusting your behavior to maintain your desired image. That's nearly a quarter of your mental battery devoted to being someone you're not. You may have heard of the 80/20 rule in business. 80% of your results come from 20% of your efforts. Well, relationship researchers have found similar social dynamics, with 80% of your happiness, success, and emotional fulfillment coming from roughly 20% of your relationships. Yet here's the irony: most people spend their energy trying to be liked by the 80% of people who don't really matter, like acquaintances, strangers, and people whose opinions have zero impact on their actual life's outcomes, while neglecting the 20% of who actually do matter. When you redirect your social energy towards the relationships that actually matter, instead of trying to be liked by any and everyone, you can focus on building genuine connections with the few people who can actually make a positive impact on your life and promote your personal growth. When you're authentic in your relationships, your brain releases oxytocin, the bonding hormone, which actually increases your energy and reduces stress. When you're performing for approval, your brain releases cortisol, the stress hormone, which depletes your energy and impairs your decision making. So, what that means is you're biochemically rewarded for being real and punished for being fake. Here's a finding that will completely alter your understanding of success. A University of Amsterdam study followed artists over 5 years and revealed that those who had public critics and haters produced 42% more original work than those who received only positive feedback. And the work they produced wasn't just more original, it was also more commercially successful and critically acclaimed. This happened because disagreement and disapproval actually fuel cognitive flexibility, which is your brain's ability to think outside of conventional patterns. When everyone agrees with you, your neural pathways become rigid. But when you face opposition, your brain is forced to create new connections, leading to breakthrough insights. This phenomenon connects to your contrarian thinking. When you stop seeking approval from everyone, something happens, and you start making decisions based on your own judgment rather than the group consensus, causing your brain to rewire itself to prioritize internal validation over external acceptance. Research has found that people who express their authentic selves, even when it's controversial, form relationships that are 67% more satisfying and 23% more likely to last long term because the relationships are based on genuine compatibility rather than forcing getting along. Think about it. Would you rather have 100 surface level relationships with people who like your mask or 10 deep relationships with people who love your authentic self? The math is simple, but most people choose the exhausting option. Number two, here's something that'll surprise you. Studies consistently show that people respect those with strong convictions more than those who please everyone, even if they disagree with their beliefs. and if they were unpopular but had strong morals, were rated as 34% more trustworthy and 28% more competent than those who sought the general approval of others. There's a psychological principle at play here called cognitive dissonance. Because when someone maintains their position despite social pressure, our brains interrupt this as evidence of deep conviction and authenticity. We may not like what they're saying, but we respect that they mean it. Number three, when you're not trying to fit in everywhere, you stand out somewhere. And that visibility leads to unexpected opportunities that people pleasers miss. A LinkedIn study of 50,000 professionals found that those who express strong, sometimes controversial opinions in their posts received 89% more profile views, 156% more connection requests, and were 3 times more likely to be approached for new opportunities. Because in a sea of bland, agreeable content, authenticity becomes noticeable. The psychological principle behind this is called distinction bias. Our brains are wired to notice and remember things that stand out from the crowd. So when you're willing to be disliked, you become unforgettable. Now, let's talk about the secret satisfaction of being a victim. Many of us unconsciously choose unhappiness because it serves a hidden purpose. It's not that we enjoy suffering, it's that suffering gives us something we desperately want: attention, sympathy, and most importantly, an excuse to avoid the terrifying responsibility of creating our own lives. Here's how this psychological trap works and why it's so seductive. When you're constantly being wronged by others' opinions, getting criticized, or misunderstood, you never have to face the scariest prospect of putting yourself out there and potentially failing on your own terms. The self sacrifice gives you a sense of moral superiority while keeping you safe from real vulnerability. This pattern is actually a psychological game, the most common one people pleasers play. It's called Why Does This Happen to Me? You bend over backwards for everyone, suppress your needs, say yes to everything, and then feel hurt and resentful when people don't appreciate your sacrifices. But here's the wild part: you are secretly satisfied by this outcome because it confirms your narrative that you're the noble victim in a world of ungrateful people. A Stanford study followed individuals who identified as chronic people pleasers over 3 years, and they discovered something disturbing. 73% of participants showed measurable resistance to strategies that would actually improve their relationships and reduce their stress, because improvement will require giving up their victim identity. And many people are more attached to their suffering than they are to their happiness, creating a victim narrative called learned helplessness. But it's not just about feeling powerless, it's about a psychological payoff of powerlessness. When you're a victim, you don't have to take responsibility for your life. You don't have to risk rejection, failure, or the judgment that comes with actually trying. Recovery from people pleasing often involves recognizing this uncomfortable truth. Part of you enjoys the drama of being misunderstood or unappreciated. It's easier than the responsibility of being truly seen. There's a comfort in complaining about how others treat you because it means you don't have to examine how you're treating yourself. When we've been in victim mode, our brains release small amounts of dopamine, the reward chemical, because we're getting attention and sympathy. It's not a big hit like achieving a goal, but it's enough to create a subtle addiction to being wronged. Many people pleasers unconsciously create situations where they'll be disappointed. They overgive specifically so they can feel underappreciated. They say yes to everything so they can feel overwhelmed. and they avoid expressing their needs so they can feel neglected. The way out of this trap requires brutal honesty. You have to ask yourself, what am I getting from this victim story that I'm afraid to lose? Maybe it's attention, maybe it's excuse to avoid risk. Whatever it is, you have to be willing to give it up, to get your life back. Instead of seeking approval or demanding it, it's about finding meaning in being useful, regardless of recognition. It's about shifting from what I can get from this interaction to what I can give to this situation. This mindset shift is backed by some of the most compelling research in positive psychology. The Harvard study of adult development, the longest running study of human happiness in history, spanning over 80 years, found that people who focused on contributing to others' well being without expecting gratitude reported 40% higher life satisfaction than those focused on personal achievement or social approval. They also lived longer, had better physical health, and experience less depression and anxiety. People who are givers, those who contribute without keeping score, actually fall into two categories. They're either the least successful people in any organization or the most successful. There's almost no middle ground. The difference, the successful givers have learned to give without depleting themselves, while the unsuccessful ones give from a place of people pleasing and end up burned out and resentful. Let me break down the neuroscience of why giving works so powerfully. When you shift from approval seeking to contribution focused behavior, your brain undergoes neural rewiring. You activate the reward system associated with purpose and meaning. Your brain literally becomes calmer and more creative. This mindset shift is subtle but powerful. Instead of asking, how can I get them to like me? You ask, how can I be genuinely helpful here? This removes the emotional charge from social interactions and gives you a sense of purpose that doesn't depend on others' reactions. You become what is known as internally referenced rather than externally referenced. When your self worth doesn't depend on others' approval, when your identity is built around being useful rather than being liked, criticism becomes information instead of attack, and praise becomes nice to have rather than necessary for your survival. Research has shown that people who often engage in meaningful contribution activities, whether at work, in relationships, or in their communities, show 67% less activity in the brain regions associated with stress and anxiety. So they really become more resilient to social pressure because their sense of worth isn't tied to others' opinions. So, how do you actually develop this courage? It's not about becoming rude or inconsiderate, it's about freeing yourself. For 1 week, commit to expressing one genuine opinion per day. But here's the key, don't do it to be controversial or to shock people. Do it to practice having a perspective. The goal is to recalibrate your nervous system's threat detection system. So start small. If someone tells a joke that isn't funny to you, don't fake laugh. Just give a genuine smile and move on. What you'll discover is remarkable. The world doesn't end. In fact, you'll likely find that people become more interested in what you have to say because you're actually saying something. A study from the University of Pennsylvania found that people who express authentic opinions, even when they differ from the group, are rated as 23% more trustworthy and 31% more interesting by their peers. When you consistently express authentic thoughts, your brain begins to produce more dopamine, the reward chemical, during social interactions. So you're basically retraining your reward system to value authenticity over approval. This is where most people get stuck. So pay attention. Start saying no to one thing per week that drains your energy. But you have to watch how people adjust and how the right people respect your boundaries, while the wrong people reveal themselves. Boundaries filter out people who are only interested in what you can do for them and attract people who value you as a person. When you say no to a request that doesn't align with your priorities, you'll get one of two responses. Option A: the person respects your decision, maybe even thanks you for being honest, and continues to value your relationship. Or option B: the person pushes back, makes you feel guilty, or becomes distant. Option B people were never really your friends or supportive. They were just people who found you useful. Researchers have found that people who consistently maintain healthy boundaries report 45% less stress and 38% higher job satisfaction, and they receive 52% more respect from colleagues because boundaries signal self respect, and humans are wired to treat others the way they treat themselves. When you demonstrate that you value your own time and energy, others unconsciously start valuing it too. Instead of complimenting someone to get them to like you, help them solve a problem with no expectation of return. When you shift from what can I get from this person to what can I give to this situation, you eliminate the neediness that repels people and develop the confidence that attracts them. People who give first without keeping score are 3 times more likely to receive help when they need it. But here's the thing: they're not giving it to get, they're giving because it aligns with their values and gives them a sense of purpose. And what you'll discover is that contribution focused people are rarely disliked, not because they're trying to be liked, but because they're genuinely useful, which is far more powerful than being popular. What happens when you consistently choose authenticity over approval? You develop authentic confidence. And this is completely different from the fake performance based confidence most people chase. Authentic confidence is anti fragile. It doesn't just survive challenges, it actually grows stronger from them. When you consistently act in alignment with your values despite social pressure, you rewire your brain. Each time you choose authenticity over approval, you strengthen neural pathways associated with self trust and weaken the circuits tied to external validation. Your anterior cingulate cortex, the brain's region responsible for monitoring social threats, gradually becomes less hyperactive, freeing up massive amounts of mental processing power or your cognitive load, which is the mental effort required to maintain a false self. Studies using functional MRI scans show that people pleasers' brains are constantly running background programs, saying things like, how did they react to what I said? Should I have phrased that differently? This cognitive overhead is exhausting and it steals resources from creativity, problem solving, and genuine connections. So, when you're not constantly monitoring and adjusting your behavior, your nervous system can actually relax. The parasympathetic nervous system, your rest and digest mode, becomes more active, leading to better emotional regulation and 32% less anxiety in social situations. Authentic individuals also show enhanced activity in the prefrontal cortex during high stress decisions because when you're not second guessing what others want to hear, you can access your wisdom and your values more quickly, and you'll even have 28% better decision making under pressure. Also, authenticity appears to unlock divergent thinking, the ability to see novel solutions and make unexpected connections. So, when you're not confined to socially accepted responses, your brain literally generates more original ideas and up to 45% more creative problem solving abilities. Now, I know what you're thinking, but what if people reject the real me? Here's what the research shows: authentic people actually have better relationships, not worse ones, because they attract people who genuinely like them for who they are rather than collecting relationships based on performance. Every moment you spend worrying about others' opinion is a moment you're not living your life. You're living in reaction to imagined judgments and crafting a performance instead of experiencing reality. You're outsourcing your self worth to people who don't even know the real you. How crazy is that? But when you accept that some people won't like you no matter what you do, you can finally stop trying to win everyone over and start focusing on what actually matters: your growth, your relationships with people who get you, and your unique contribution to the world. When you live authentically, you don't just transform your own life, you give others permission to do the same. Your willingness to be disliked for being real creates space for others to drop their mask too. And your boundary setting becomes even healthier. The world is waiting to see your authentic truth. Are you ready to disappoint some people to become who you're meant to be? Are you ready to trade the exhausting performance of people pleasing for authentic living? Because here's what I know for sure: the version of you that everyone likes probably isn't the version of you that changes the world. So stop playing it safe and start being real. The people who are meant to be in your life will find you. Drop a comment and let me know if you finally have the courage to be disliked. Like this video and subscribe for more videos on healing and personal empowerment. And until next time, stay trauma free and take care.